Fraternity issues with Stephon Diggs.
On the microphone.
Telling you guys, when I say that my forehead is raw from changing all these wigs, raw.
So you thought the Cardi B trial was over after those viral courtroom moments? Think again. What happened during the lunch break today has everyone talking. And I'm about to break down not just the closing arguments that could determine this $24 million case, but the absolute chaos that erupted outside the courthouse that had Ellis's attorney literally asking the judge to punish Cardi. We've got closing arguments that exposed just how weak this case really is, a courthouse confrontation that shows exactly why Cardi was defending herself in the first place, and we also have the verdict that could set a major precedent for celebrity shakedown lawsuits. But here's what's really getting me fired up. While Ellis's attorney was in there asking for nearly $500,000 in damages, a male reporter was outside harassing Cardi about pregnancy rumors and her personal relationships. When she finally had enough, she threw something at him. And Ellis's lawyer? Of course, he would try to use that against her in court. If you want the complete breakdown of how this trial went from comedy gold to absolute pandemonium, smash that subscribe button because this tea is scalding hot and we're about to spill every last drop. And if you missed our part 1 video explaining the background of this case, make sure to check that out as well. Okay, back to the tea. The jury is still deliberating as I'm recording this, so we'll have a verdict update towards the end. But what I'm about to show you from these closing arguments will explain exactly why this case should never have made it to court in the first place. Let me set the scene for you. It's lunch break during closing arguments of a $24 million lawsuit, and Cardi B is walking out of the courthouse. She's been sitting through hours of testimony, maintaining her composure while being questioned about everything from her wigs to her pregnancy. And she's probably just trying to get some air. That's when a male reporter approaches her with what he calls a legitimate question. But listen to what this man thought was appropriate to ask a woman in the middle of a legal proceeding.
Hey, Cardi, you're beautiful. Cardi, insiders are claiming that Offset is publicly bragging about getting you pregnant for the 4th time. Do you foresee any fraternity issues with Stephon Diggs?
Let me break down how absolutely inappropriate this question is. First, he's asking about private family matters that have nothing to do with the assault case she's defending. Second, he's asking about paternity issues, essentially questioning whether her relationship with another man might affect her children's parentage. Third, he's doing this outside a courthouse where she's fighting a $24 million lawsuit. Cardi's response? She grabbed a pen from a fan and threw it in his direction. She said. The reporter, apparently thinking this was charming, responded,
I still love you even though you...
But Cardi wasn't having it.
Here, you're disrespectful. Don't do that. Do you see women asking those questions to me?
No, ma'am.
Women asking those...
When the reporter had the audacity to call it a legitimate question,
It's legit.
What
Cardi delivered what should be a masterclass in calling out inappropriate behavior.
do you feel as a man you get to ask me those type of questions? Act like you have some manners. And your mama taught you, respect women.
And honestly, good for her. This woman has been sitting in a courtroom for days defending herself against a frivolous lawsuit while maintaining her dignity. And this reporter thought it was appropriate to ambush her with invasive questions about her personal relationships. But here's where it gets even more ridiculous. After the lunch break, guess what Ellis's attorney decided to do? After the jurors were sent in for deliberation, he brought up the pen throwing incident to the judge, claiming that Cardi had been also, quote, staring at his clients throughout the day, and claiming that they were afraid for their safety after that event, ultimately asking that she be admonished for her behavior. Think about the audacity of this move. His client is suing for $24 million over an alleged assault. And he's now trying to use Cardi's response to inappropriate questioning from a reporter as evidence that she's somehow threatening or violent. Thankfully, Cardi's attorney, Peter Anderson, stood up for her immediately, stating that Cardi had done nothing disrespectful while in the courtroom and had maintained proper decorum throughout the entire trial. And after that, the judge simply stated that he can't make any judgments based on anything that didn't happen in the courtroom and that he didn't witness himself, and dismissed it. Now, let's break down Ellis's attorney's closing arguments, because it was exactly what you'd expect from someone whose case is falling apart. A lot of emotion, very little evidence, and some truly desperate attempts to justify a $24 million demand. Attorney Ron Rosenjan-Faza started by complaining that Cardi used profanity in court, calling it disrespectful to the judge and courthouse. But as Cardi's attorney would point out later, she was simply repeating, under oath, what was allegedly said during the incident. If you're claiming someone used certain words, the witness has to be able to testify to those exact words. His strategy was to paint Ellis as this innocent, hardworking security guard who was just doing her job when she was violently attacked by a celebrity who thought she was above the law. But here's where his argument gets particularly weak. John Faza admitted that the two key witnesses, the receptionist and the doctor, only saw the aftermath of the incident.
Then we learned throughout the case that when Cardi B came to the building, she caused a disturbance. She was yelling and screaming, top of her lungs, going crazy, to the point where two other witnesses, Miss Malcolm, which was the secretary of the doctor, and Dr. David Finke, was so loud that those two people came out after about 40 to 50 seconds. Now, the issue with that is those two witnesses didn't see the four things that happened before that. So yes, they're witnesses, but they're not witnesses to that first part, which would include taking a swing at Miss Ellis, spitting on Miss Ellis, calling her the N-word, and ultimately cutting her face. None of that was seen by those two witnesses.
So his entire case rests on the testimony of Ellis herself, with no corroborating witnesses to the actual alleged assault. Then he tried to explain away all the contradictions in Ellis's story. Remember how Ellis couldn't keep straight whether the scratch was on her cheek or her nose? John Faza's explanation:
this is a 7.5-year-old incident, and that's a few thousand days ago. It takes a lot of time has passed, and an incident can be perceived differently by different people. So Miss Malcolm could have perceived it one way, and Dr. Finke could have perceived it one way.
But if you're suing someone for $24 million, shouldn't you at least be able to consistently identify where you were allegedly injured? The most damaging part of John Faza's closing argument was when he had to address Dr. Mulliken's testimony about the direction of the alleged scratches. Remember, Dr. Mulliken testified that the scratches were made by a right-handed person swiping downward. But Cardi is left-handed. This is potentially case-ending evidence that Ellis's own expert witness provided. John Faza's response? He completely ignored it. He didn't even try to explain how a left-handed person could have made right-handed scratches. He just moved on and hoped the jury wouldn't notice. He also had to deal with the fact that Ellis went home and took a nap after this allegedly traumatic assault. His explanation? She was too emotionally overwhelmed to seek medical attention. But Ellis's own cell phone records show she was making and receiving calls until 3:35 p.m., then had a gap until 9:08 p.m., exactly when she said she took a nap. If you're traumatized and injured, are you really going to be casually taking calls and then sleeping it off? The most telling part of his argument was when he asked for specific dollar amounts. He requested $16,500 in past medical bills, $15,000 for future surgery, up to $500,000 in pain and suffering damages. Wait, weren't they asking for $24 million? What happened there? But here's what he couldn't explain: why someone who took multiple trips to Hawaii, advanced in her career, and got a higher paying job after this incident deserves hundreds of thousands in damages for alleged trauma. Cardi's attorney, Peter Anderson's closing argument was a masterclass in systematically destroying a weak case with facts and common sense. He started by addressing the profanity complaint directly.
Counsel argued that Cardi swore and used profanities in the courtroom and that was disrespectful. Actually, all she was doing was repeating under oath what was said. In fact, Ms. Ellis, plaintiff, used profanities to describe what she heard. Counsel used profanities, and I have to admit I used profanities, but just to tell you what was supposedly said. Cardi has never gratuitously sworn at any point in this courtroom, and this suggestion that you should be prejudiced against her because of that is just unfounded and offensive.
Then he laid out the fundamental problem with Ellis's case.
You'll be instructed that plaintiff bears the burden of proof of establishing her claim. She must convince you that the evidence shows that by 50% or more her claims are valid. Now there's another way of putting it is, if plaintiff fails to prove that her version of what happened is more likely than not what did in fact happen, you must decide the case in Cardi's favor. That's 50-50. That's where the plaintiff has put on as much evidence of as the defendant of a fact, and you'll see that that's where people talk about the 51%. But it is crucial to keep in mind that plaintiff doesn't start at 50%, she starts at 0. She has to raise that needle from 0 to 50% and more. She has to go beyond 50%, or you have to find for Cardi.
This was crucial. Ellis didn't just need to tip the scales slightly in her favor. In civil court, you need to prove your case is more likely than not to have happened. That's 51%. But as Anderson pointed out, Ellis didn't start at 50-50. She started with zero evidence and had to build up to that 51% threshold. And with contradictory witnesses, expert testimony that proved she was lying, and zero corroborating evidence, she never even got close. Ellis's behavior after the alleged assault. She went home and took a nap. She didn't call police, didn't go to a hospital, didn't even put a band-aid on the supposed scratch. Her own cell phone records corroborate that she was casually taking calls and then sleeping. The car accident issue. Ellis admitted to a car accident in 2021 where she hit her head. This was after she told Dr. Mackenzie, her psychologist, in 2018 that Cardi almost touched her with a fingernail. Not that she actually did. The plastic surgery didn't happen until 2022, after the car accident. The medical expert's contradiction? Dr. Mulliken, her plastic surgeon, said the scratches were made by a right-handed person, but Cardi is left-handed. Anderson emphasized this point.
Importantly, Dr. Mulliken testified at his deposition and that the claim scar was about an inch long and most likely made by a right-handed person who scraped or clawed downward with 3 fingers. But Plaintiff herself claimed in her deposition that Cardi jabbed her with a straightened index finger, like this. That's not a scrape.
When you say it like this, she put her finger?
Pointing, yes, so like this, pointing her finger in my face, yes.
That is directly and irreconcilably in conflict with Dr. Mulliken's testimony that it was a right-handed person who scraped with an index finger and 2 other fingers downward. They don't correlate. The testimony is clear that Plaintiff and her plastic surgeon have completely different explanations for the same claims, with Plaintiff's own testimony that she was jabbed with the straightened finger. And to add to that, Cardi is not right-handed. I want to say that again, it's very important. Dr. Mulliken says that in his professional opinion, and counsel talked about how well-respected he is, that it was a right-handed person who scraped 3 fingers downward across Plaintiff's face, but Cardi is left-handed. She is not a right-handed person and could not have done that.
The financial incentive. Dr. Mulliken was working on a lien basis, meaning he only gets paid if Ellis wins. He also added a 20% premium to his bill because of this risk, giving him a huge financial incentive to support Ellis's case. Anderson methodically went through the contradictions in Ellis's story. The scratch location. Ellis's incident report 2 days after said Cardi scratched her nose. But her mother and grandmother testified about a scratch on her cheek. Anderson pointed out a nose is not a cheek is not a nose, and there is something wrong about what's going on. The grandmother's testimony. Ellis's grandmother said she spoke with Ellis right after the incident, but Ellis testified she didn't call her grandmother at all. The mechanism of injury. Ellis testified Cardi jabbed her with a straightened index finger, but Dr. Mulliken said it was a right-handed person who scraped with 3 fingers downward. Anderson showed the jury those are completely different things. They don't correlate. The witness problem. Ellis never called the receptionist or doctor as witnesses for her case, even though they were present during the incident. Why not? Because their testimony would have contradicted her story. Anderson's most powerful point was about Ellis's motivation. She was a fan who just happened to be outside Dr. Fink's office when Cardi B was showing up. From those facts alone, you can infer that she was actually laying in wait. Here's where Ellis's case completely falls apart under scrutiny. Janfaza asked for medical expenses, $31,500 total. $16,500 past, $15,000 future. Pain and suffering, up to $500,000. Emotional distress, additional damages on top of the above. But Anderson pointed out that Ellis got a better paying job after being fired. So there are no lost wages. She took leisure trips to Hawaii after the alleged trauma. She advanced her career and became a social worker helping families. The plastic surgery didn't happen until 2022. 4 years after the incident and after a car accident where she hit her head. Dr. Mulliken admitted he couldn't determine when the scar occurred or whether it was from an intervening accident. Most damaging of all, Ellis told Dr. Mackenzie in 2018 that Cardi almost touched her with a fingernail. Not that she actually did touch her. This completely contradicts her lawsuit claims of being scratched and cut. What we're seeing in these closing arguments is a perfect example of how frivolous celebrity lawsuits work. 1. Make shocking allegations that will generate headlines. 2. Wait years to file until the celebrity is at peak wealth and fame. 3. Demand outrageous amounts to pressure settlement. 4. Use character attacks when the evidence doesn't support your claims. 5. Play the victim, even when your own behavior was inappropriate. Ellis's case hits every one of these points. The allegations are serious, but unsupported. She waited 2 years to file when Cardi was at her most successful. She's asking for $24 million for a 60-second argument. Her attorney resorted to asking about wigs and gang affiliations when he couldn't prove assault. And when Cardi defended herself against inappropriate questioning outside the courthouse, Ellis's attorney tried to use that as evidence of her violent character. This is exactly the kind of legal harassment that successful people, particularly women of color, face when they achieve prominence. The message is clear. You can be attacked, your character can be assassinated, and if you defend yourself, that will be used against you too. And as I write this breakdown, we're getting the verdict now. A Los Angeles jury delivered a knockout verdict. Cardi B has been completely exonerated, found not liable for assault, battery, negligence, or emotional distress in the civil trial filed by former security guard Emani Ellis. After less than an hour of deliberation, the 12-member panel cast a unanimous vote. Cardi will face no damages and walks free. So here we are at the end of this $24 million legal circus, and justice has been served with a side of wig-induced forehead trauma. The jury saw through Ellis's contradictory testimony, her attorney's desperate tactics, and the complete absence of credible evidence. But let's talk about the real MVP of this story, Cardi B's forehead, which apparently took more damage from costume changes than Ellis claims to have suffered from the entire alleged assault. At least Cardi's forehead has actual evidence of injury. Those wigs don't lie.
Telling you guys, when I say that my forehead is raw from changing all these wigs, raw. And yeah, thank you for the witnesses and thank you for everybody that just took their time to come out here.
In all seriousness though, Cardi's post-trial interview showed a level of maturity and grace that honestly surprised me. After being dragged through a frivolous lawsuit for years, missing her children's milestones.
I know you guys having a little key with the moment, but to be honest with you, I have missed my kids' first day of school today. I missed my kids' last week of school yesterday because of this.
And having her character assassinated by inappropriate legal tactics, she could have been vindictive. Instead, she chose protection over revenge.
I'm not even playing around. I will, even if I'm in my deathbed, I swear to God, I will say it in my deathbed. I did not touch that woman. I did not touch that girl. I didn't lay my hands on that girl. And with that being said, this time around, I'm going to be nice. The next person to try to do a frivolous lawsuit against me, I'm going to countersue. And I'm going to make you pay. Because this is not okay. I think people have like these misinterpretations of celebrities. Like it's like, oh, well, we can ask for this and they're going to settle. You don't work at home and you don't work all day and you don't work for your money to give out your money. So don't ever think that I'm just going to give you my money that I work hard for. I don't lay in bed all day. I work all day. And I work hard for my money, for my kids, and for people I take care of. So don't you ever think that you're going to sue me and I'm just going to settle and just give me my money. It's not gonna happen.
Her warning about future lawsuits was perfect though. This is exactly the energy we need. It's like putting a sign on your lawn that says, beware of dog, except it's beware of legal team that just demolished a $24 million case. And can we talk about how this trial is about to boost Am I the Drama to the top of the charts? Nothing sells albums quite like being completely vindicated in a highly publicized legal battle. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Cardi just proved she's not the drama. She's the one who shuts drama down with facts and evidence. The real losers in all this, the California taxpayers who funded this legal fever dream that had less credibility than a reality TV show plot. While Ellis was demanding $500,000 for her alleged suffering, taxpayers were covering the cost of court time, jury pay, and administrative expenses for a case that should never have survived a basic credibility check. The unanimous verdict wasn't just a win for Cardi. It was a message to every opportunistic person with a lawyer's phone number who thinks celebrities are walking ATMs. The jury basically said, we see through your obvious money grab, and we're not here for it. Her gracious handling of Ellis in the post-trial interview was the cherry on top.
I do also want fans at home, though, not to find their social media, her family's social media, her social media, and bother her. I hope that this is something that I leave behind, that she leave behind. Don't go bother her. Don't be talking about her. Don't be talking about how she look. Don't call her no nasty names. Let's just put this behind. But I'm giving a warning. I am not that celeb that you're gonna sue and you think it's gonna settle. I'm not gonna settle, especially when I'm super completely innocent. I know I got a little reputation, but I swear to God I'm innocent. I swear to God.
We believe you, Cardi.
Like I'm really innocent for real.
Protecting someone who just tried to destroy you financially shows character that goes way beyond courtroom victories. That's the kind of leadership the entertainment industry needs more of. And honestly, if Cardi's forehead can survive multiple daily wig changes throughout a high-stakes legal battle, she can survive anything. As for what's next, I expect Am I the Drama to get a massive boost from this vindication. Nothing says buy my album quite like being completely exonerated in a case where you were painted as the villain. The marketing writes itself. The artist who was accused of being the drama just proved she's actually the one who ends it.
And hopefully, just hopefully, that reporter who asked those inappropriate pregnancy questions learned something about boundaries and professional conduct. Although honestly, after seeing how Ellis's case turned out, I wouldn't be shocked if he tries to file his own pen-throwing lawsuit. Some people never learn. What did you think of Cardi's post-trial grace and maturity? Were you surprised she protected Ellis from online harassment after everything that happened? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The real takeaway from this whole saga isn't the viral moments or the legal victories. It's that sometimes doing the right thing, even when it's harder and more expensive, actually works out. Cardi could have settled quietly and avoided all this drama. Instead, she fought for the principle that you can't just shake down successful people with baseless accusations. And in doing so, she created a roadmap for other celebrities facing similar situations. The message is clear. If your case has merit, fight it. If it doesn't, be prepared for your credibility to be demolished by 12 jurors who can spot nonsense from a mile away. Justice may be slow sometimes, but when it works correctly, and when lawyers like Peter Anderson can present the facts clearly, it's a beautiful thing to witness. Today, it worked exactly as it should. Cardi B has been fully vindicated in this $24 million lawsuit, with the jury unanimously rejecting all of Ellis's claims. Her post-trial maturity and grace in victory, combined with her warning to future opportunistic litigants, sets a powerful precedent for how celebrities should handle frivolous lawsuits.